Hi, I'm Adam Reese, and we're going to talk a little bit about fat loss. If you've tried this thing, if you have a little bit of weight to lose and you've tried this thing and you've tried it one time, then I bet you've tried it dozens of times. So you know how frustrating it really is and how easy it gets to get wrapped up in the frustration and just give up on the whole thing. And one of the things that I think that really needs to go over is the expectation within it. And one of those is set by The Biggest Loser. And The Biggest Loser is this really interesting show that has inspired a lot of people. And the world right now is kind of in an interesting place because we're really quickly approaching about 50% of the population being obese. And the thing about obese is that I think there's a lot of this like swaying kind of idea around what obese is, that is it healthy or not. And what I can tell you is that from a blood work scenario, it might or might not be, depending on the person. We know that cholesterol is not the thing that is a good barometer for health. But I guarantee you that it's not your joints are not asking for. You're not doing your joints obesity is not doing any joint any favor. It is not doing any favor for the energy that you have within your body. For instance, if you are 100 pounds overweight and we were to take 75 pounds of that weight off, I almost guarantee you're going to feel more energetic. You're going to be able to do more things that you do want to do. So does obesity take away from your lifespan? I think that's yet to be seen on a grand scale. Now, does it take away from the life that you are living today? Yes, no doubt about it, because you can't do the things that you want to do. And if you're not one of the overweight people, well, it's not that hard to figure out. If we threw a 75-pound vest on you and had you walk around all day, I bet you by the end of the day, you're going to be more tired than you normally would have been. So both sides of this obesity thing are really silly. The proud to be obese thing is a dangerous place to play around in. And the fat shaming thing is, both of those are they're the same level of ridiculousness. But so one of the things that comes up though is The Biggest Loser and the expectation that The Biggest Loser sets. I want to keep this one fairly short today, but you have to realize that there's three really key things I think around The Biggest Loser that we have to look at. We have to look at the environment that they're walking into. We have to look at where they are a year and 2 years out from the end of the show. And there's a few other lifestyle factors within both of those that I think that we need to look at. So for one, we need to look at where are they now. After the show, where are they now and where were they before? Now, I think that these people should be applauded because they did take a ton of courage to put themselves in a scenario that would push them and put pressure upon themselves to go to a new place that they were not able to go to on their own. I think that takes a lot of courage. And that by courage, I mean that had to be scary to step into that scenario and to force themselves into that. No different than if you get a coach. I think getting a coach is a way to apply pressure upon yourself and accountability upon yourself to push you to new places. So everything that I'm saying in here, I'm not putting down The Biggest Loser contestants at all. But these people, we have to look at this and we have to say, no wonder it worked, because they went into a house where they were all together. Okay, so we grouped a bunch of common mindsets together that are very motivated and inspired to push forward to this new lifestyle that they want to have, and this new way of experiencing their life via losing all of this fat. So they're in this house around other people. Now, they don't have a phone, they don't have a computer, they don't have TV. Okay. Those are three big things that we have to take into consideration. They have their own chef. Okay, so now they have they don't have to make their own food. It's prepared for them, and that food is already, the portions are already controlled. All right, and then they have their own trainers, and they also have a curfew. They're told to go to bed at a certain time and wake up at a certain time. So this creates a certain amount of things that should push us towards being successful, and now, so they go through the whole show, they have a certain amount of success. The Biggest Loser had the most amount of success, did this really great thing, lost weight. They talk about the mental and physical changes that they went through, and they're so happy about it. And then we have to look at, where are they now? 100%. This is the sad part, is that 100% of the Biggest Loser contestants have gained 100% plus, for some of them, of their weight back. That's the really sad part, is that they went through this huge transformation and then they gained the weight back. So what happened there? Well, there's some pretty significant things that happened there. And one of the big ones, I think, is that they went home. Okay, we can look at the science of this thing and we can say, well, their metabolism slowed down because they went on this huge crash. They weren't using as much energy. Their body learned to survive on less energy, so then they slowly gained it back. But that should be over the course of like years, not just 1 or 2 years. So we have to look at this a little bit more in depth. Okay, so I think they went home. They went back, and all of a sudden they had a job. They had the influence of their family and their spouse. They had to deal with kids. They had their TV, their phone, and their computer back. They didn't have a trainer, so they were going at this thing all alone. Alone. So now you're not pushing your workouts near as hard. You're not doing things as hard. And they had to cook their own food and decide on what their own food choices were going to be. And they could go to bed at any time that they wanted. Okay, they didn't have the structure built in that they had on the show. Now, from a trainer's perspective, the training that they get on the show is atrocious. I've only seen the show like 2 or 3 times, and every time I'm like, oh my God, this is borderline abuse, and this is sad to watch, and I can't believe this is actually a real thing. So don't expect that when you walk into a Grit Gym. But there is certain things that I think that we can take away from The Biggest Loser, and I think that they're on those two ends of the spectrum. What did they do while they were on the show that we can pull away from and learn from? And then what did they do while they were on the show or when they got off of the show that led to failure? So while they're on the show, they structured their day. They applied a pressure to themselves. They got around other people that were doing what they wanted to do. And they got themselves in an environment where they could be successful. And they got themselves a coach. And they got themselves some structure around how they were going to make their food choices. Now, where did they fail? They failed on the complete opposite end of that. When they got home, they went back to all same old. And the same old is what got them there in the first place. So I really think this is a scenario of that your habits decide what you're going to be. And in order to have everything that you want, you have to do all the things that the people who have those things do. And if you don't want to discipline yourself for the rest of your life to doing those things and having those things, to be able to have those things, then we have to become that thing, that person that just does the thing so that they can have all the stuff that they wanted to have. So you have to become the fit person in your mind before you actually become the fit person, before your body actually shows it. And I think that that's what you're seeing when you see The Biggest Loser contestants, is they were putting this situation that was very, very real, where they had a curfew, they had trainers, they had a chef, they had no phone, computer, TV, and they were in a house with other people that were on the same wavelength. And then they got out of that and they went back to a place where they had all their old influences, all their old stressors, all their old stuff that led them back to where they were before. So I think that's the thing that you can take away from the biggest loser. I don't think that you can take away their training methods, because those are garbage. Those are awful. But there is some good stuff to take away from The Biggest Loser. Okay, we know where they failed and we know where they succeeded. So we should. So I encourage people to look at those things. Like where did they succeed? All right, let's use that. Where did they fail? All right, let's be aware and acknowledge that could be a reality for me. Anyway, that's my talk on The Biggest Loser. Yes, lifestyle is just a huge thing. Your habits are going to. The reason that you build a habit is because you don't have to think about doing it. If it's just a habit that this is how you eat, then you don't have to think about doing that. But that takes a ton of repetitions and it takes a ton of discipline. There's just no way around doing the repetition and the discipline thing. And I realize that's kind of the hard way about it, but there are some secrets along the way and some ways that you can build in this stuff so that it doesn't have to be such an uphill battle for the rest of your life. And that's what Amber goes over in the nutrition course that I encourage everybody to sign up for, because it's fantastic, and she's outdone herself on this go, because there's an online portion attached to it, and there's reference videos. You can ask her a question 24/7, whereas before it was just that you waited around or emailed. You could email, but you didn't have direct access like you do now with the software that we have. It's just much better. But what can we learn from The Biggest Loser? We need to get around people. We need to get around other people that are going for what we want. We also need to get focused on the thing. When we don't have the phone, the computer, or the TV, we don't have all those influences coming at us that make us diet, or that influence us to diet hop or to sabotage what we want now for what we want later. And then we need to get some kind of structure around our food. We need a coach in terms of nutrition. We need a coach in terms of how we're going to exercise. And we need to build a structure into our day, when we're going to go to sleep and when we're going to wake up. And for the most part, everybody needs to be going to bed at 10 and waking up at 6. The 8 hours between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. are completely different than the hours between 1 a.m. and 9 a.m. And consistency is a huge thing there. But that's my little talk on The Biggest Loser. I encourage everybody to sign up for the nutrition course. It's $297 for 6 weeks. After you get signed up, Amber will contact you to get you scheduled for your first first day, for your time slot, and then we go from there. It starts October 15th, 2018, and I think you guys are going to love it. But anyway, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow.